When you finally get alone, something starts to happen on the inside that you can't experience when you've got everybody around you. When the room gets quiet, when the phone stops buzzing, when the opinions fade out, you start to hear the one voice you've been avoiding for years, your own. And that's where the power is. Because most people spend their whole life drowning in noise, letting the world tell them who they are, what they should be doing, what they're capable of, and they never take the time to sit with themselves long enough to discover the truth. But when you step away from the chaos, when you remove the crowd, when you decide to get alone on purpose, that's when clarity enters the room. That's when vision unfolds. That's when purpose gets loud. Alone is uncomfortable at first, because it forces you to confront the parts of you you've been hiding, the fears you've been ignoring, the pain you've been carrying, the dreams you've been neglecting. Alone exposes the real you. And listen to me carefully, exposure is not punishment, it's preparation. You cannot transform what you refuse to acknowledge. When you're by yourself, there's no one left to blame, no one left to impress, no one left to pretend for. It's just you, looking at you. And for the first time, you start telling yourself the truth. The truth about what you want. The truth about what you're capable of. The truth about why you've been holding back. That truth becomes the foundation of your growth. When you're around others, you adjust, you adapt, you shrink, you stretch, you fit the environment. But when you're alone, you become the environment. You start creating your own standards, your own expectations, your own identity. You stop waiting for people to tell you you're enough, and you start declaring it for yourself. You stop asking for permission, and you start giving yourself authority to step into who you were created to be. Alone is not weakness, it's where strength is born. There's something powerful about silence. People run from it, but silence is where answers live. Silence is where ideas rise to the surface. Silence is where you finally hear the whisper you've been missing. The whisper saying, you can do more, you are built for this. And the only reason you couldn't hear it before is because the world was too loud. When you get alone, you switch off the world and switch on your soul. And that's why some of the greatest breakthroughs in your life won't happen in a crowd. They'll happen in the quiet. They'll happen in the moments when no one is clapping for you, no one is cheering you on, no one sees the work you're doing, and yet you stay with it because you're learning to trust the voice inside. Alone is where you learn to love yourself again. Alone is where you rebuild confidence. Alone is where you rediscover your strength. You begin to remember that you've survived things people don't even know about, that you've carried weight quietly that would have crushed others, that you've already overcome more than you give yourself credit for. When you finally get quiet enough to reflect, you realize you've been powerful all along. You just needed space to see it. And when you come out of that season of solitude, you're not the same person who walked into it. You're sharper. You're clearer, you're grounded, you know who you are, you know where you're going, and you know what you're no longer willing to tolerate. Being alone didn't break you, it built you. It stripped away the noise and revealed the strength that had been buried under years of distraction. So if life is pulling you into a season of being alone, don't fight it, embrace it, lean into it. Let it shape you, refine you, mold you into the version of yourself you've been praying to become. Because the moment you stop running from being alone is the moment you start running toward your power. There's a different kind of strength that comes from being alone, a strength most people will never tap into because they're afraid of what happens when nobody is watching. But that's exactly where discipline is born, in the shadows, in the quiet, in the moments where nobody is checking on you, clapping for you, or reminding you what you said you were going to do. When you're alone, you find out what you really want, not what sounds good, not what looks good, not what impresses people. Alone exposes your habits, it exposes your choices, it exposes your effort, and that exposure is where discipline begins to take shape. When you get by yourself, you can't hide behind excuses anymore. You can't lean on somebody else's energy. You can't depend on somebody pulling you up when you feel tired. Alone forces you to become your own motivator, your own accountability partner, your own source of push. You start waking up not because somebody called you, but because you made a promise to yourself. You start grinding not because someone posted a motivational quote, but because you decided your future is worth the sacrifice. You begin to realize that the most important commitments are the ones you make when nobody else is around to witness them. Discipline doesn't grow in front of an audience. It grows in the dark. It grows in the mornings when you don't feel like getting out of bed, but you do anyway. It grows in those late nights when you'd rather quit, but you choose one more rep, one more page, one more hour of focus. It grows in the moments when the world is asleep and you're awake because your dreams won't let you rest. That's the kind of discipline that can't be taught, can't be borrowed, can't be faked. It's earned through repetition, through consistency, through the daily decision to honor your goals even when your feelings try to talk you out of it. When you're surrounded by people, it's easy to get caught up in matching their energy. You move when they move. You slow down when they slow down. You get comfortable because they make comfort look normal. But when you isolate yourself for a season, you stop adjusting to them and start adjusting to your vision. You build habits that belong to you. You build routines that serve your mission. You create a pace that no one else controls. And once you taste the strength that comes from self-discipline, you stop settling for anything less. There's a power in mastering the quiet moments, the moments where the only voice you hear is the one inside your head. That voice starts to change when you stay committed long enough. Instead of doubt, it starts to sound like conviction. Instead of fear, it starts to sound like confidence. Instead of excuses, it starts to sound like determination. Alone time becomes the place where you sharpen that voice until it becomes stronger than your distractions, stronger than your past, stronger than your temptations. And the best part, when you build discipline alone, nobody can take it from you. People can leave, seasons can change, circumstances can flip, but the discipline you built in your solitude becomes permanent. It becomes your anchor. It becomes the reason you don't break under pressure, the reason you don't fold when life hits, the reason you don't give up when the journey gets heavy. You don't need external validation anymore because you built internal standards. You don't need someone pushing you because you learned how to push yourself. So, if you're in a season where it feels like you're walking alone, understand that you're not being punished, you're being prepared. That loneliness isn't weakness, it's training. It's shaping you into someone who doesn't need perfect conditions to show up. Someone who doesn't need applause to stay consistent. Someone who doesn't need an audience to execute. Your discipline is being forged in the quiet so that your greatness can speak loudly later. This is the season where you prove to yourself that you don't just dream big, you work big. There's something that happens when you step back from everybody, when you stop giving your time, your energy, your presence to every person who asks for it. The moment you choose to get alone for a season, people start showing you who they truly are without you even asking. When you're always available, always accessible, always showing up, you can't tell the difference between who's there for you and who's there for what you give. But the second you pull back, the second you stop pouring into everybody, the second you let the phone ring instead of answering every call, watch how quickly the truth reveals itself. Some people will fall off without a conversation. Some will disappear the moment you're not benefiting them. Some will get distant when you stop entertaining their drama, and you won't even have to confront them. You won't have to argue. You won't have to explain. Your silence will do the separating for you. Alone becomes the filter. Alone becomes the test. Alone becomes the mirror that shows you who was standing next to you out of convenience and who was standing with you out of commitment. When you're around people constantly, it's easy to misread intentions. You confuse familiarity with loyalty. You confuse proximity with purpose. But when you get quiet, when you stop giving constant access, you start seeing clearly. You realize who actually checks on you without needing something. You realize who encourages you even when they're not getting anything in return. You realize who shows up because they choose you, not because they need you. Alone exposes motives. But don't mistake exposure for loss. It's not loss, it's protection. You're not losing people. You're losing distractions. You're losing dead weight. You're losing confusion. Alone is where your circle starts to shrink, and trust me, that's one of the greatest blessings you'll ever experience. Because a small circle built on truth is more powerful than a big circle built on convenience. 5 real people will take you farther than 50 fake ones ever could. You don't need a crowd to fulfill your purpose. You need clarity about who's meant to walk with you. And clarity comes from distance. When you separate yourself for a season, you give yourself room to breathe, room to think, room to evaluate. You stop letting emotional attachment cloud your vision. You stop forcing people to stay who have already checked out. You stop tying your future to people who were only meant to be a temporary chapter. And here's the beautiful part. When you step away and work on yourself in silence, the people who are truly for you won't disappear. They won't get offended. They won't guilt-trip you. They won't complain about your growth. Real ones understand that elevation requires isolation. Real ones cheer for you even when you're quiet. Real ones stay connected even when you're busy becoming. They don't need constant access to believe in you. They don't need your presence to stay loyal. They don't compete with your journey. They support it. Being alone also teaches you how to value your own energy. You learn what peace feels like. You learn what alignment feels like. You learn what boundaries look like. And once you taste peace, you stop entertaining anybody who threatens it. You stop chasing relationships that drain you. You stop apologizing for choosing your mental and emotional health. Alone strengthens your standards, and strong standards attract strong people. So don't be afraid when people walk away during your season of solitude. Don't chase them. Don't question yourself. Don't shrink. Trust what the silence is showing you. Trust what the distance is revealing. If someone disappears when you stop giving, they were never yours in the first place. And if someone stays through your silence, they're worth keeping when you rise. This is the season where you finally see who's real. When you're alone, you start feeling everything more deeply. The hurt, the disappointment, the mistakes you wish you could take back, the moments you thought would break you. But let me tell you something. Those feelings aren't there to destroy you. They're there to build you. Because when there's nobody around to distract you, nobody around to numb the sting, nobody around to entertain your thoughts, you're left faced with the raw materials of your own transformation. Alone is where the pain finally speaks, and if you listen closely enough, that same pain becomes your roadmap to power. Most people run from being alone because it forces them to deal with what they've buried. But what they don't understand is that the power they're praying for is buried underneath the very things they keep avoiding. Alone is where you stop pushing your wounds aside. Alone is where you stop pretending you're okay. Alone is where you let the tears fall without shame. Alone is where healing finally has space to work. And you've got to understand, healing is not weakness. Healing is strength. Healing is the process of becoming whole again. Healing is the moment you stop letting the past lead your future. And when you get alone long enough, something else starts to happen. You begin to see your vision clearly. You start to see what life could look like if you stop settling. You start imagining the version of yourself that you've been holding back. That vision didn't show up in the crowd. It showed up in the quiet. It didn't reveal itself in the noise. It revealed itself in the silence where your soul finally had room to speak. Alone becomes the space where ideas flow freely, where creativity returns, where dreams that you thought died begin to breathe again. It's in solitude that your mind starts connecting the dots. You start realizing why certain doors had to close, why certain people had to leave, why certain seasons had to end, and instead of fighting it, instead of resisting it, you begin to accept it. You begin to understand that everything you've been through wasn't punishment, it was preparation. Preparation for the person you're becoming. Preparation for the assignment you're stepping into. Preparation for the strength you didn't know you needed. But don't think solitude is just about reflection. No, solitude is where you train. It's where you build the blueprint. It's where you write the plan, set the goals, and sharpen the mindset. You get quiet enough to hear what needs to change. You get still enough to recognize your patterns. You get honest enough to confront your weaknesses. That honesty becomes fuel. That clarity becomes direction. That direction becomes momentum. Alone becomes the gym where your spirit lifts the heavy weight that the world can't see. And when you come out of that season, you're not coming out empty. You're coming out armed, armed with wisdom, armed with vision, armed with resilience, armed with a mindset that refuses to break. You come out seeing opportunities you used to overlook. You come out stronger in rooms that once intimidated you. You come out knowing your value in a way that makes you unshakable. Alone taught you that your strength is not dependent on attention, approval, or applause. Your strength comes from alignment. And here's the truth. Once you've learned how to turn your solitude into strength, nobody can weaponize your loneliness against you again. What used to hurt you now fuels you. What used to confuse you now guides you. What used to break you now builds you. Alone didn't weaken you. It transformed you. Alone didn't isolate you. It elevated you. Alone didn't empty you. It refined you until your purpose became undeniable. So don't fear the quiet. Don't resist the stillness. Don't rush the process. Embrace the season where it's just you, your thoughts, your pain, your purpose, and your God. Because in that space, you are becoming someone powerful, someone focused, someone dangerous, someone destined. This is the season where solitude turns your silence into strength.